Do you know this great song by R.E.M.? For many characters of the TV show Pluribus, this song can be their new anthem, because the world really ended and they couldn't be more happy about it.
No one is being robbed or murdered. No one is in prison. The color of one's skin, by all accounts, now meaningless.
That's actually a great deal if you ask me. Where do I sign? But there's a catch. To achieve this beautiful utopia, you'll have to sacrifice your individuality, whatever it is that creates your unique I. In exchange, you'll never suffer again, you'll never feel alone, and you will always be in a state of constant joy. Is this a sacrifice you're willing to make? I mean, can I even call it a sacrifice? Now, if you haven't seen Pluribus, the new show made by Vince Gilligan, the brilliant mind behind Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, here's what's up. In the beginning of the show, scientists discover a signal from outer space, but it's not ordinary space static, it's periodic, it's drifting, and it repeats the same exact data every 78 seconds, which suggests that it's not random and programmed by some intelligent life form. The signal comes from approximately 600 light-years away from the Cygnus constellation, and in the later episodes we discover that it comes from Kepler 22b, a real exoplanet discovered by the Kepler Space Telescope in 2011. The power required to send this kind of a signal is enormous.
Megawatts? Gigawatts? And that's if it's pointed only at us.
Antenna the size of Africa.
The data in the signal is divided into 4 different frequencies. Each of them consists of a reference to guanine, uracil, adenine, and cytosine. These are proteins in RNA sequence, and scientists in the TV show replicate them and create a virus that serves as some sort of a psychic glue that allows every human being to be aware of everyone else who is connected to this hive mind.
To feel everything all at once would be unbearable, but we know it as it happens. We're aware.
The first infected people transfer the virus via saliva and peacefully convert the rest of humanity until the military discovers their efforts, which requires the hive mind to expedite the contamination process, and it results in a global tragedy and the loss of almost 1 billion lives.
I guess you gotta break a few eggs, huh?
But here is a big surprise that the hive mind didn't expect. There are 13 people, 13 individuals that completely immune to the virus and get to keep their ego and personality. Early in the show, they discover that the hive mind is affected by their emotions, positive and negative, and hence are willing to do whatever they can to appease and please the remaining individuals. A deal that most of the survivors are happy to accept. Most, but not all. The main protagonist, Carol Sturka. A self-absorbed, miserable egomaniac and an alcoholic with no knowledge relevant to this mission whatsoever, and Manouses, a man from Paraguay that read probably way too many survival books. Together, they must find a way to save humanity and reverse the virus. Granted, Pluribus is not a mystery box TV show like From, Lost and Severance, which I usually try to dissect here. In Pluribus, almost everything is on the surface, but there is still some interesting questions that I'd love to answer for you, and the main one is how the hive mind actually works. There's actually a reason why it took a while for me to make something about Pluribus, and it's not that I didn't enjoy the show. Obviously I did, it's a great TV show by great people. But you see, when I'm trying to analyze a TV show, I usually prefer my sci-fi TV shows to be grounded in science, based on some kind of a scientific research or anything in that matter. So when I do my analysis, I have something to base my theories on, and it's not just artistic licenses and imagination. And I was not really convinced that this is the case with Pluribus. Yeah, it's a great TV show, but felt more like the whole virus situation is on the background of the background of the background and not really being focused on by the creators. But Zosha convinced me otherwise.
Fun fact! A study of zebrafish seems to imply that Oxytocin is responsible for the development of empathy in vertebrate species about 200 million years ago.
Zosha here actually references a real study that was made by Portugal, Italy and Israeli scientists, and it's called Evolutionary Conserved Role of Oxytocin in Social Fear Contagion in Zebrafish. Now, zebrafish can sound like a weird choice, but they're actually one of the most important animals in neuroscience. Their brains are simple, transparent at early stages, and most importantly, since humans and zebrafish are both vertebrate species, if something works in them, chances are a version of it exists in us. And I think that this study is the first key, the first building stone to explain how actually the hive mind works, how this mechanism actually affects people. When a zebrafish sees another zebrafish experiencing fear, not being attacked, not being hurt, just being afraid, the observing fish starts to show stress responses as well. Elevated cortisol levels changes its movements and freezing behavior. Fear spreads, not through sound, not through touch, but through perception. This is something the scientists call fear contagion or emotional contagion. And the key hormone behind this process is mentioned oxytocin. We are used to think of oxytocin as the love hormone, bonding, trust, motherhood. But this is a simplification. Oxytocin doesn't make you kind or more positive towards somebody else. It just makes you more connected. It lowers the barrier between one nervous system and another. But since I'm a moron who barely studied in school and got only bad grades in biology, I decided to ask an expert. This is Michael Glicksberg. He's actually one of the scientists who work on the study that Zosha mentions in episode 9.
I just want to say one more thing about oxytocin. Is you said something which I think is very, very smart and correct, and more people should know about it, because there is this kind of idea in the pop culture about oxytocin being the love hormone or the cuddle hormone and all that. And as you said, it's right that kind of modern neuroscience of the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years has kind of moved past that idea. My own favorite interpretation of oxytocin, the one that I personally subscribe to, is oxytocin as this kind of, it kind of raises the volume, we call these words salience in science, of social signals, right? So if you're just walking around the world, there's a lot of things happening around you in any given second, right? There's, sounds like of cars honking and birds singing, and you have this feeling of you sitting on your chair, on, the skin receptor on your back and on your butt, and the shirt on your shoulders, and 100,000 different things which are happening, which your brain is processing like it doesn't have any choice, right? They're coming at you. But for whatever reason, humans and most social animals are very, very, very good at picking out social information from all of that mess of information that's out there in the world. And you probably don't have any issue blocking out whatever else is going on for 99% of the time and focusing on my voice and my face as we're having this conversation, despite the fact that I'm just like a couple of pixels on the screen for you right now, right? It's very easy for your brain to do this exercise of picking out that specific stream of information from everything else that's going on around. Oxytocin is kind of what modulates that, how easy it is for you to pick out social information. And that's why kind of the zebrafish in our study, in the study about social contagion, the ones that are oxytocin deficient, that have this kind of mutation that renders either the receptor to oxytocin or the oxytocin itself ineffective, it's not, in my opinion, it's not so much that they don't care necessarily about the fish, it's that they have a bit of a harder time connecting this weird behavior, this weird thing that the other fish is doing, to, oh, this is a fish and it's in trouble and it's trying to tell me something, right? This information is more muted compared to everything else that's going on in its environment at that time.
In the zebrafish study, when scientists blocked oxytocin receptors, the fear contagion disappeared. The fish could still see another fish panicking, but it didn't feel it anymore. The emotional state stopped being shared. Later stages of the study proved the fish filled with oxytocin didn't just copy the movements of the distressed fish, but also became very distressed. This study implies that empathy is not solely a socially learned behavior, it's actually our biological imperative to feel what others experience.
People who are socially impaired, like people with this high-functioning autistics, for example, a lot of times if you talk to them, what they'll tell you is like, it's kind of hard for them to understand the subtle social cues, like what are you doing with your eyes? Why are you having these facial expressions? Things like metaphor and innuendo and things like that. These are all subtle social cues, and they have a harder time focusing on that. So that's what you lose, right? When you mess with the oxytocin system. And if you have an overactive, supercharged oxytocin system, then maybe you're exactly the opposite, right? And then you're all locked into the same thing, super synchronized. You're all responding to the same thing at the same time. There's one guy at the other side of the world who is running away from something, who's scared of something. You're all locked into that. You're okay. This is happening over there right now in China. Some dude is scared in China because he's running for his life. Maybe we're not panicking, but we can't not see that happening. It's very easy for us to feel that thing happening over there.
Now let's bring this back to Pluribus and imagine that through an RNA sequence, our bodies evolve to a state where oxytocin production and receptor sensitivity are pushed to their maximum levels. This reshapes the brain neural mapping so profoundly that we become constantly aware of everyone else's state, while our brain's electrical activity becomes synchronized.
So I would agree that this is probably what's going on. Like, if like at some point in the show they would like have a complete brain scan of all the individual members of the hive mind, then they would each have much more similar brain firing patterns to each other than they would between take any two other humans, two like regular individualized humans, right? Because as you said, once the brains are in complete sync, then they're basically more or less the same brain. Right? You could hypothetically do that. You would have these proteins in the right parts of the brain, so that once you activate the radio signal, the brain is kind of all fire similarly at the same time. And if you have some kind of coordinating like center somewhere on Earth, which is shooting out these radio signals, then everybody is acting in concert with this one kind of central node. Okay.
Suddenly, the hive mind doesn't look like psychic glue anymore. It looks like biology pushed to an extreme. Every human nervous system becomes hypersensitive to an emotional state of every other connected human. And anger? Yeah, anger becomes toxic. Because when one immune individual screams at the hive, their cortisol spikes, and that spike ripples through millions of synchronized bodies at once. The result isn't disagreement, it's systemic overload, convulsions, collapse, 404 mistake in the system. So the hive mind is just empathy pushed to an extreme level when you are constantly aware of everybody else, what they are thinking, what's going on with them. But then again, we have this interview with Vince Gilligan.
The others cannot mirror our emotions, and that's one of an actor's biggest tools is to play off your scene partner. That's where you get things that feel alive and present, not rehearsed. And the others can't do that. You would tell Carolina, like, you're aware of the pain that Carol's in, and you care that she's not happy. Yeah. You just don't feel the pain. You're not. There's sympathetic, but not empathetic.
Yes.
And so like, that's very hard to do.
Now, Vince here is oversimplifying this process just a little bit. Empathy is not just a single process, but a group of distinct mechanisms. We have cognitive empathy, is the ability to understand what someone else is feeling without sharing the emotion. This is actually what doctors and policemen and anybody who works in these stressful situations do. They need to detach themselves, otherwise they're just gonna go crazy. We have emotional empathy, means actually feeling another person's emotional state. You feel sad? I feel sad. You feel happy? I feel happy. This is actually something that we usually interpret as love. And separate from both is somatic or bodily empathy, where the body physically simulates what it sees, such as flinching or feeling discomfort when watching somebody get hurt. Well, you know this feeling. When you see somebody getting hit in the balls in the screen, your usual reaction is something like this. You know exactly what I mean. Now, what Vince and everybody else is talking about in the interview is sympathy, and the difference between empathy, or should I call it the cognitive empathy, and sympathy is that sympathy actually cares without necessarily understanding your pain or your emotions. And cognitive empathy is understanding without actually caring. The hive mind cares for Carol without understanding how she actually feels. They see her as a child who doesn't know any better, and the cure for her symptoms is the joining process. Now, since all the people in the hive mind have synchronized brains, it allows them to utilize our electromagnetic field, which every human has, and transmit a radio wave that cements this connection between the hive mind people. One of our heroes, manouses, manages to identify the frequency at which they transmit the signal, and it's 8.613.0. It's actually possible that the number 613 here is not random. In the Hebrew Bible, when Moses brings the 10 commandments, the Jews actually receives eventually 613 commandments that in total combine a set of laws on how to be a moral human being. This is basically a roadmap how to be a human. Now, it's of course possible that it's just a coincidence, which is actually likely, since Vince Gilligan not Jewish and not even religious, but his stories were always more Old Testament than New Testament. His stories are not stories of redemption and the savior, but about crime and punishment, the descent from moral compass and the payback by a bigger power. But let's get back to our topic. In the final episode, manouses discovers that his negative emotions create a destabilization in the frequency signal between the hive mind people, so it resets their system to the 404 error. And since their brains synchronized, it means in order to reverse this process, we need a powerful disruption agent to stop the synchronization long enough to allow individuality fight back for its place in human psyche.
What about an atom bomb?
One of the first things that happens after a nuclear explosion is a powerful electromagnetic impulse that disrupts all electronic and radioactivity in a wide area. And this is why the hive mind was reluctant to give Carol the bomb. They were willing to do it, but not as easily as with a grenade. They know that even if the bomb is going to be exploded in a desert area, it will still harm them. Now, of course, there are still many questions about how Carol and manouses even operate an atom bomb together, and just exploding it probably won't be enough, otherwise the hive mind would probably never allow them to have it in the first place, and would just leave to, to get some space. And of course, Pluribus puts its scientific basis in second place in its priorities. It more delves into human soul and our civilization as a whole. It's not random that the signal is being transferred to us through all human existence, and the virus is an RNA sequence which basically can be found in every possible life in the universe. And there is the zebrafish study that explains how one can modify empathy and sympathy in a living creature. Pluribus asks us questions like, what is happiness? What does it mean for you to be an individual? What is love? Is it always positive and a good force in the world? And what does it say about us as species that if we completely abstain from any form of violence, we will all perish in 10 years? And the answer to the question nobody asked me here is yes. I love my closed ones, I love my family more than I love everybody else in the world, and in the situation, unlikely situation that I would have to sacrifice or do something unimaginable to protect my family, I would do it without thinking twice. But this is just me, and what I love about Pluribus is that everybody can answer these questions by themselves without the help of random YouTuber here. Right now, all I can ask you is use your cognitive empathy or whatever it is and like and subscribe, and I want to thank everybody who supports me on Patreon and here on YouTube. Your financial help is what makes this channel possible. Thank you so much, I'm gonna see you on the next one. Meanwhile, bye!